Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for the second part of my review of Holly Black's The Wicked King, The Lost Sisters, and The Cruel Prince. They do not exactly go in that order. I kind of said them backwards, but it's The Cruel Prince first, The Lost Sisters, that's book 1.5, and then it's The Wicked King. So I left off talking about Viv's relationship with Heather, and as much as I would like to continue about that, I really wanted to get in depth to another relationship, but I wanted to warn everyone who hasn't read the book already that this is a spoiler review. And if you haven't read it yet and you are interested in reading, I need you to click on another video of mine, because I do not want to ruin it for you, especially because it's going to be something that you really are looking forward to reading if you haven't already read it yet and you're into fantasy novels. Anyway, for those of us that have read it, I need to continue. And I left off on Viv and Heather's relationship, and I said what I said. I'm not too happy about Viv, but the next set of relationships I want to get into is Cardan and Orla. Now, Orla is the queen of the sea, and the land and the sea have had their little mishaps. And Cardan read at some point when Jude was taken by the queen, he read up on the history between the two places, and he said that if they were to get in any sort of conflict, neither side would win because they're both strong in their own right. Now, what I want to hit a point on is Cardan's powers. His relationship, not his relationship to the land, but his strength that he draws from the land. There was the one point where he was poisoned by his brother Baelkin, and he couldn't heal himself like he was supposed to. And the bomb says Cardan is High King and draws strength from the land, but is very weak and she doesn't think he knows how to do it yet. So, Jude realizes at some point that she says, not even long after that, she says, surely isles are different, storms come quicker, colors are sharper, but all is done without trying. The land had altered itself to better suit Cardan. Now, this is when she does the whole reflecting and thinking back. When he tells her, he says, look at them, look at all your subjects. They're, they don't even know who their real ruler is. And when you really think about that, Cardan doesn't have real ties to the land. And I feel what I mean by that is that I feel like his power over the land comes from his emotions, right? And how he is, as it shapes to how he is as a person. Cardan is on the outside a cruel soul, but on the inside he's just as vulnerable as Jude, to be truthful. And when he says the vows to her, there's this moment where the land is altering and the land is changing. It changes even more. And then at that point, towards the end of the book, already at that end of the book, he is able to use the land how he wants to, I'm assuming based off his emotions. He's very upset. He's very vengeful at that point towards the end of the book. Jude says, after Cardan says his vows, she says, above us, the buds are blooming. The whole room smells of flowers. And she says later on, she says, above us, the branches begin to bud as though the land itself has heard the words he spoke. And that was her inner thoughts. And that was, I believe, chapter 29 or 28. I cannot tell you, offhand. It's off a little bit on Audible. But, at that point, he gets stronger. And then he's able to use his power to show Orla, who's boss. By telling her, he's just oh, you have the land, but guess what? He says, you have the sea, but guess what? Underneath all the sea, there's land, and he puts a whole nother island up. So his relationship with Jude is what I believe, strengthened his ties to the land. That's how he was able to access his power, because as soon as they got married, stuff with the land started happening. It happened more. It was there like stuff had happened a little bit already when she was saying like the storms come quicker and the colors are sharper. Like, yeah, but what good is that if he can't access the power? And then it's like, bam, married, you love her, drawing on inner emotions, the land starts reacting. You know, that's how I believe that's how his powers got unlocked. That's what I'm gonna say. That's what I'm sticking to. That's my belief. And so Orla is Cardan feels a certain way when Orla starts targeting Jude, because she took Jude for a month, and then she pretty much like starved Jude for a month, and then like Cardan tells her, like, at the end of it, he's just like, all right, well, you want to go tit for tat, like, let me take someone you care about. And he wraps Nicasia up in a freaking tree trunk. Like, so Nicasia's not going anywhere either, because he's just like, okay, yeah, you want an eye for an eye, we'll do an eye for an eye. And so they kind of like, Orla and Cardan like expose each other's weaknesses. Like, they know what their weaknesses are. For Orla, it's her daughter. We saw that when she kidnapped Jude for that month, and Jude noticed in her little inner monologue how like Orla put Nicasia's, you know, her thoughts, her priority, her decisions above everything else, especially when Balekin was like right there. And we see how vulnerable Cardan is with Jude when he has, like, we have this whole span of a month where we know where like nothing happens, but all we know at the end of it is that he struck a deal with Orla to get her back, and he attacked the king of the termites. Like, so that should tell you something. Something happened, and I want to know. I want to know what Maddox's, you know, ideal was when Jude was taken. And it really sucks because, like, when you look back at all three of the books, it's like Cardan just has these blank moments, and it's just like there's these times where Jude's like looking at him and she's just like, I want to know what he's thinking. He's looking at me a certain way. Like, I'm looking too. Like, I want to know, like, what is he thinking? Like, what's going through his head? But I mean, from what Holly has said before, he is going to get his own, Cardan is going to get his own point of view book. We are going to see what's going through his head. And then in Queen of Nothing, she peeks at it and she says that he is going to get his own, he will be in the mortal world in the Queen of Nothing, and we'll see him there for a little bit. It's on my Twitter. Follow me at Ariel Silvers 2. And you'll see that. I have, like, I retweeted it, but it was something that someone else shared. But, yeah, like, so another thing, like, that this does is that it exposes Jude and Cardan's relationship. Now, we kind of, like, get into it. And I have to mix Balekin's relationship with Cardan to get the desired effect from, like, Jude and Cardan's relationship. Because, like, Jude and Cardan have this, it's not like a love-hate relationship. It's not. They have a hate-love relationship. Meaning, like, they started off, like, not standing each other. But you see a different side of Cardan when we're looking at the Lost Sisters book. Because when Jude gets thrown into the river or the lake, with the Kelpies, like, Cardan waits at the line. He like waits there, like, with a foot in the water because he's worried about Jude. But he also, like, that's from The Cruel Prince. But also in The Lost Sisters, we get Taryn's perspective, and they talk to, like, Nicasia, Locke, and Cardan are talking to Taryn, and they're just like, Cardan just comes up and he's just like, you let your sister take the blame. And she's just like, don't punish my sister. And he said, it's much too late for that. Because at this point, like, she done put, like, Judas put salt in their food, and it's like, she done messed up. And he probably would have left her alone because she is the innocent party in the whole love affair with Taryn and Locke. But she's suffering because her sister never said anything to her. So, all right, so going back to that, there were moments where we just saw, like, their like hate connection grew into something else. We see different sides of Cardan where he shows that he is vulnerable, and that's, I think, where him and Jude really connect as far as the vulnerability goes. And this is where I have to bring Balekin in, because Cardan says at some point, like, Balekin, we see Balekin punishing him in The Cruel Prince. We see how he is, period, when he's, like, dueling Balekin, when Cardan is dueling Balekin in Balekin's, house, castle, tower, whatever, and, he just, like, he gets whipped because he can't do it. He has, like, he doesn't like swordplay. He doesn't like murder. He didn't like it when Valerian was choking Jude with the apple and she was about to die. He kicked her off of him. When Valerian almost compelled Glamour Jude to jump off the tower, and she stabbed him. Like, she told Cardan later on in the first novel, she said, I told him, he came to my room and he was trying to kill me, and she showed him the bruises on her neck that Valerian gave her. And Valerian was very upset when she said something about Cardan, like, did Cardan put you up to this, when he was attacking her? And Valerian was just like, Cardan, like, told me I deserved everything I got. I deserved to get stabbed. So that should tell you something there too. Like, there's a vulnerability in their connection. Like, Cardan hates killing. He absolutely hates it. He said at some point that he was vulnerable. Not vulnerable, but he let it show. Like, as you know, the Fae can't lie. They have to keep to their promises. Cardan tells Jude, he says, and this is a direct quote, "Why was I cruel to folk? Why was I awful to you? Because I could be. Because I liked it. Because for a moment when I was at my worst, I felt powerful. And most of the time, I felt powerless, despite being a prince and son of the High King of Fairy." And that's, like, something that he's telling her, like, when he's poisoned. Like, it's like, I don't want to be like this. I choose to be like this. I have to be like this. But it's like, I'd rather not. Like, he's regretting so much stuff that's happened. And that's a huge leap in Cardan's character development. And it shows a vulnerable side to him. There's many other vulnerable moments, too, with him, where, like, we see Cardan, in his moments with Jude, he is, like, wait a minute, I'm finding it, because I wrote it down. Okay, so Cardan also talks about his brother encouraging all his cruelty and inflaming all his rage. He wasn't kind to her and wasn't sure if he wanted her or wanted her gone from his sight. This is, like, not long after Orla had taken her. Like, he doesn't know how to feel about that. It was just also showing another vulnerable moment for Cardan. And it also shows, like, how he's really feeling, because obviously the Fae can't lie. So he's telling her how he really feels. He says Cardan talks about his brother encouraging all his cruelty and inflaming all his rage. He wasn't kind to her and wasn't sure if he wanted her or wanted her gone from his sight, so he could stop feeling as he did, which made him even more unkind. He tells her, he said, "When you were gone, truly gone beneath the waves, I hated myself as I never have before. Perhaps I am foolish, but I am not a fool. You like something about me, but there is more you do not like, and I know it. I can't trust you. Still, when you were gone, I had to make a great many decisions, and so much of what I did right was imagining you beside me, Jude, giving me a bunch of ridiculous orders that I could not disobey, you know? I nonetheless had to obey." Like, that's pretty much what he tells her. And when you really think about it, that's another vulnerable moment for Cardan. He has many vulnerable moments, but it's like he can't help but be cruel. And Jude has these vulnerable moments too. Like, she absolutely realizes, like, her and Cardan have, like, this connection, but she falls for him hard when they, like, sleep together. She's just like, she's in love with his vulnerability, because it's like, it's not just, you know, him, it's her too. Like, they understand each other and where each other's coming from. Like, Jude doesn't want to kill. I feel like Jude doesn't want to kill anybody either. I feel like she never wanted to kill anybody, but she had no choice. Like, she lives, it's just her and her sister. They're the mortals in this Fey realm, and they know how cruel it is. She got her ring finger, like a tip of her ring finger, bitten off because the Fey are cruel. They play mind games. They glamour you. They make you think something that shouldn't be. Like, and so in a way, like, she has to prove herself, and she has to fight so much harder than the average, you know, Fae, the average person. Like, she's even fighting harder than, like, her sister to find a place. She's fighting harder than all of them to find a place. So in that's her vulnerability. Like, she doesn't know her place. She doesn't know where she belongs. She doesn't know what she's doing. She wants so much. She wants to prove herself. And that's her vulnerability. And then you got Cardan's vulnerability, and that's where they fell in love. That is the connection. And I would like to say that that's, like, what I'd like to tie that back into the Orla conversation. I was saying, like, Orla and Cardan, like, and his power drawing from the land, and then it's like the connection between him and Jude. Like, he honestly, he can't rule without Jude, and I feel like at some point he's gonna need that. That's how come he ends up in the mortal realm in Queen of Nothing, but that's for a different story. Okay, so Cardan also tells her. He also tells her that he trusts her. And he wanted to, well, he tells her that he trusts her, but he also wants her to trust him, which is where we end up coming to the punchline of the second novel. Cardan tells her when he's recovered, he's just like, your father and sister tricked me. I didn't even ask why. I wanted to show you that you could trust me. That's what Cardan says to Jude. And he tells her he's tired of them manipulating each other. It's no way to live. It's no way to rule. And the fact that he got tricked is proof. And he'd like to make his own decisions. That's why he wants her to let go, let up off the promise, like release him from the promise. And there's this one line that he offers her, like, that he tells her when they're, like, before he asks her to marry him. He says, when offering, like, he says, a lot can happen in a year and a day. Much has happened in half that time. And it's like, I want to know what is happening. What has happened to Cardan that we do not know about? There's so much that I want to know. And it's, like, blowing my mind, because I'm just like, at this point, I'm like, we need the Cardan point of view. Because it's just like, I want to know what goes through his head when he's asking her to marry him. Obviously, he was surprised. He didn't expect her to say yes. She states that in the book, okay? But there's also that month time that Jude went missing. I want to know what happened. I want to know, like, what the conversation and the argument was between him and Maddox. And you know Maddox right now doesn't even like Jude because she outwitted him in the first book. So I want to know if he was just like, no, let's not save Jude. And Cardan was just like, I left her, we're going to save her. But you don't know that. And then Locke was messing with Cardan at the Revel in the second book, putting them, like, trying to, like, bring out whatever feelings. I feel like Locke has suspected that Cardan has liked her since, like, halfway through the first book. And because they just all stopped messing with her at one time in the first book. So I feel like Locke knows, and he wants, like, he's trying to bring it out so they just admit it to each other, in a sense. But I also feel like Locke kind of wants Jude because it's like, she's different. She's not like Taryn. Not at all. She's definitely built a lot tougher than Taryn. Okay. All right, so what else haven't I covered? Okay. All right. Yep. Okay, so Cardan doesn't like to kill, which brings in the Balekin situation, because at the massacre, the right. Okay. Oh my God. There's so much, like. Cardan, I think, okay, so let me finish the marriage thing first. I'm, like, there's so much going through my head right now. Forgive me, guys. Like, okay, so, when he was about to marry Taryn, he says, I meant not marry Taryn. He married Jude. What the hell am I talking about? Okay. Okay. So Cardan's vows are, I, Cardan, son of Eldred, High King of Elfheim, take you Jude Duarte, mortal ward of Madoc, to be my bride and my queen. Let us be wed until we wish for it otherwise, and the crown has passed from our hands. Okay. Now, I already stated the whole, like, theory about the land and him drawing his powers from, like, it's pretty much like a codependency. Like, it's Jude. He needs Jude. That's why, like, his power, like, he came to some self-realization. Okay, but what I want to know is, since he banished her, it says the crown has passed from our hands, and he told her that she has to be pardoned by the crown in order, like, she has to be pardoned by the crown in order to or lest she never set foot in Fairy. So since she's part of the crown, now that she's his queen, can she pardon herself? That's a question I want to know. And then the second question, was, let us be wed until we wish for it otherwise. Now, he had the opportunity to say, I don't want to be married to you, before they escorted her back to the mortal realm, and he didn't say a thing. He just looked at her, laughed, like that cruel laugh, like that fake laugh, because he was probably like, ha 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 ha. No, there's that fake laugh he was doing. Like, he had the opportunity to tell her I don't want to be married to you. And at that point, she hated him enough to sit there. If he had said that, she probably would have said the same thing. I don't want to be married to you either. And it would have been done. But he didn't say that, which means he wants to be married to her. He wants her. He wants her. That's what I'm getting from this. And also, I had a question because I wanted to know about, it's not really a question for you, but if you want to answer it, please feel free. Because there's like the ruby ring significance. I want to know, what is the significance of the ring? Because that is brought up at least 3 or 4 times in not the second book. It's brought up at least 3 times in the second book and 1 time in the first. Because in the first book, I noticed that, like, I was listening to it, and Jude was sent on a mission for Prince Dane to retrieve a ring from one of Baelkin's associates at a party. That was when she first started spying. That was like her second or third act of like her third job as a spy. And then that ruby ring pops up in Baelkin's hands. Then it pops up it pops up in Dane's hands, Baelkin's hands, and Cardan's hands. Or Dane's hands and then Cardan's hands. But now it's in Jude's hand. And I want to know what the significance of that ring is. Because the ring came from the Termite King. That's the party that she stole it from. So I really want to know what the significance of that ring. Because she even said that is, the exchanging of rings is not a fairy ritual. So what is the significance there? And then I don't know if anybody peeped like the introduction or like the beginning part for like the Queen of Nothing, but there's like a curse or something that has to get broken. So does this ring have to deal with the curse? And does it, like, she's married to the High King. She has this questionable ring, and she can't be glamored. I mean, there's gotta be something. There's gotta be something there. And she's like, Jude can be ruthless when she wants to be. She can be. So I need to know. Oh my God, I need to know. Okay, so I don't know where I'm at right now. I'm just like talking, but I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure like Cardan is in love. Cardan, I think, is in love with Jude. He just hates her murdering ways. And I know that he sent her to the human realm as a way of protecting her, because she just admitted that she killed Baelkin, who is the ambassador, but still was a prince. And that's high treason. because they mentioned that in the first one, that you should not piss off the royal family, and if you were to do anything to any of the royal family in a violent way, then that would be considered treason and punishable by death. So he saved her from almost getting killed by all the other fae. So I think that's why he sent her, but also too, I think he sent her because she was getting entirely too murderous. And what do you mean by she was getting entirely too murderous? Like, she was sitting there with the roach and with the bomb, and they were talking about, like, they were talking about killing Balkan, and right before the masquerade ball, Cardan looks stricken when Jude mentions killing Balkan. And then Cardan says, the three of you have one solution to every problem: murder. No key fits every lock. So he didn't want the roach to kill Balkan. He wanted to force Balkan to take a side. And then, like, he wanted to help him take a side. And I already mentioned about the apple in the first one. I mentioned about, like, how Cardan is really, like, against killing. He really is. He's tired of them manipulating each other. Like, he just... And he talks, like, not highly of Balkan, but he definitely mentions that Balkan is that brother that, like, took him in. And because Dane didn't banish him, but he kicked him out. He didn't want nothing to do with him. And again, Cardan is like the sixth child. So, and Jude even describes, like, Cardan's behavior. She says in chapter 29 or 30, she said that since the death of Balkan, Cardan said little and avoided looking in her direction. So he's already planning stuff. Like, I mean, I feel like he knew that Balkan had to go because Balkan did poison him, and she did kill him, but it was like in an act to save his life, but she really didn't have to kill him because he started to surrender, and then she, like... So, I don't know. We'll see. But, I mean, I had some points. I mean, I really would love to know... I'd really love to know your thoughts. I'd really love to know, like, your ideas. Like, I would love to have a discussion about this. If you guys could, like the video and leave a comment and tell me what you think about these books. Like, I really enjoyed all of them, and I have to admit, like, even though I was not a huge fan of the Lost Sisters, it did tie everything together, and everything made a little bit more sense when you read the Wicked King. So if you guys could just leave a comment, like the video, let me know, subscribe to my channel, I'd appreciate it. And yeah, all right, bye guys.